Hi, how are you guys doing? It's afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Monday. I'm still here doing videos for you. Okay, so we are moving to history. Okay, so in history, I need you to open to page 207. The results of the war. Yes, and the war, here I'm going to move you back. I should have checked you before I started, sorry. And the war we're talking about, the results of, are the war. Okay, that should be better. Is the War of Mexico, the Mexican American War? Yeah, I thought it was better. So, some results of that war. So, the war ended in 1848 with a peace treaty between Mexico and the United States. Polk had gotten what he wanted, and now he wanted the war to be over. So, what he did was he wanted to develop a peace treaty with the Mexican people, the Mexican government, so that he could end the war. So, he decided that Mexico should pay them in land for the price of the war. A lot of Christians were pretty upset about this because they felt that Polk had entered a war illegally. Well, not illegally, but it was ill advised. He shouldn't have done it. They felt it was against what was the right thing. And they knew that he just entered it to take the land from the Mexicans. And so a man named James Alexander, you can see a picture of him in your book on page 207. He felt that the Lord would judge the United States for what President Polk did, which was to poke the Mexicans into a war with the United States so that he could take their land to fulfill what he believed was his God-given right, I guess, which was a belief in manifest destiny. He believed that God wanted us to have the United States to have all the land between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and so he felt justified in this. But a lot of Bible-believing people felt that it was wrong. So, in order to negotiate a peace treaty, President Polk sent Nicholas Trist to the government of Mexico to tell them all the great lands that Mexico was going to give them. Remember, in the beginning of this, Polk tried to buy the land from Mexico, and Mexico said, absolutely not, forget it. And so he pushed them into a war to take it. And so he sends Nicholas Trist down to Mexico to talk to the Mexican government, probably Santa Anna because he was the president, to negotiate peace and to take a lot of their land. Now, Trist did not agree with Polk or the war. I don't know why he picked Trist to go down, but he did. And so Trist signed a peace treaty with Mexico for the least amount of land possible for Mexico to give up. Polk was very unhappy when Nicholas Trist came back with that treaty because it wasn't what Polk wanted. He ends up firing Nicholas Trist after this because he's very angry with him. The Mexican government is not very pleased with him either because they didn't feel that they should have to give up any of their land due to the fact that Polk kind of instigated the whole situation here. So as I've said in the beginning, if you would like to be a president, being a war hero is helpful. So in 1848, Zachary Taylor sees the opportunity to become president. He is a war hero from the Mexican-American War. Even though a lot of people didn't agree with it, he was considered a valiant fighter and a good strategist and things like that. And so he runs for president in 1848 with the Whig Party and he wins. So he becomes our next president. Okay? So what happens also in 1848, which changes not only well, not only where people live, it also changes who lives here. So, in the United States is what I mean by here. Let me turn it a little bit more. So, California Gold Rush. In 1848, a man named John Sutter was working at his mill with his men. So, he had a lumber mill, if I remember right. Oh, excuse me. Okay, he had a lumber mill, and I think it's a lumber mill. I don't think it was a flour mill. Anyway, sorry. So in the water, one of his workers finds some gold. So John Sutter decides he should probably keep it quiet, but he couldn't keep it quiet. Too many people knew about it. And once like one person knows about gold, like everybody learns about the gold. Okay? So what happens is word gets out that they found gold in California at Sutter's Mill. So by 1949, people from all over the world, so all over the world, not just people in the United States, but people all over the world, rush to Sutter's Mill in California and that area, and they start to try to mine for gold, okay? Because their desire is to become rich. Now remember, the Bible tells us the love of money is the root of all evil, okay? Not having money, but loving it. And this occurred during the gold rush. People were very mean to each other. Some people killed each other for their gold or what they thought they had gold. The Chinese people worked very hard on their gold mines. Claims, sorry, not mines, their gold claims, and the people who thought there was no gold on those claims and sold it to them to try to like steal their money were very upset when they actually did find some gold, because they worked very hard and they like were very diligent to make sure they went through every single piece, and the people who sold it to them didn't do that. So there was a lot of lawlessness. There was a lot of stealing and murdering and lying and cheating, because they all did not really care about what God and His Word said, but they mostly cared about getting gold. At this time, these people are called 49ers. The 49ers captured and enslaved Indian children to work their mines, and if the parents said anything, they just killed the parents. It was a really, really dark time, but it shows that what the Bible says is true, that when you love money more than anything else, you're going to do all kinds of evil and wicked things, sinful things, and that is what happened. Okay? The miners, amazingly, most of them did not get rich. There's very few of them that found enough gold to pay for their expenses, because while they were there working their claims, they had to pay for food, they had to pay for clothes, they had to pay for all these supplies that they needed. And their merchants are actually the ones who made a lot of the money during the gold rush. They brought in supplies, and because there was lots of people who needed them, remember we talked about this supply and demand, and there were very few supplies and lots of people who needed it, they could charge a lot of money for their supplies. So the people that actually got rich during the California Gold Rush were actually storekeepers. You might be interested to know that, see these lovely jeans here? Yeah, they were invented for the miners. A man named Levi Strauss was an immigrant. He came to this part of the country. The men at that time had these pants that they would just wear out because they weren't really made for digging around in the mud and the water and the land, and it was the work was really hard on their pants. So he invented jeans. Levi Strauss, and he actually had a company called Levi Strauss, and today Levi still makes jeans. Most people just call them Levi's for short. And so the miners really loved Levi's pants that we call jeans today, because they were very durable. They could work in the mines. They could, the dirt would get in them, and the rocks would scrub them and stuff, and they would last. And so he was able to make a lot of money off of the 49ers, the miners. Yes? So, because there was this whole love of money, because they went out to California where there was no like government yet, really, because these little mining towns all over California popped up, there was a lot of danger. So there was no government, there was like no police, there was, none of that. So they kind of governed themselves, which sometimes worked okay, and other times it was angry mobs that were like attacking one or two people or whatever. It was just nutty. It was really, really dangerous for the people who were there. Now, one interesting fact about the 49ers is when they came to California with their slaves, when they came to California, they did not bring their slaves. They were concerned that if they brought their slaves to California, that they would run away. And since, like I said, there's no government really out there, there's no law, there's no like sheriff, police, that kind of thing, because it's just like a massive group of people just going to California from all over the world. They were very scared that they would lose their slaves, so they did not choose to bring them, which made people who were against slavery super happy. And in California, those people all got together and they decided, since there were so many people in California, because like I said, they came from everywhere, the population of California skyrocketed, they decided they wanted to become a state. So in 1850, California comes into the Union as a free state. Okay, so let's please look at page, I want you to read all this, yeah? This is just the overview kind of thing. But let's look at page 211. So on page 211 is this lovely bar graph. We've learned about bar graphs. And it shows the population of California. So if you look at 1848, which was, before the gold rush, it was when Sutter discovered the gold. It was just after, as the war of the Mexican-American War was ending. If you look at it, it is less than 50,000 people. It's about 25,000 people. So each of these numbers is worth thousands of people. See that on the side? Okay, let's come close to the mirror, the camera. So see, it says thousands of people, right? So this is 50,000, not 50, but 50,000. These are all thousands. So the next one is 100,000. Yeah, it goes up by 50,000. 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, 250,000. Okay? Yes? Understand how that's read? So as you can see, in 1848, there's only about 25,000 people because it's only halfway. Okay? By 1849, it's gone up to 100,000 people. By 1850, when they become a state, it's already up to about 70,000 people maybe? Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the wrong line. I was reading 1851. So in 1850, it's 150,000 people. Look at that. In just 3 years. Did I do my math right? No, 2 years. In just 2 years, it goes from 25,000 people to 150,000 people. That's a lot of people moving into California. Then in 1851, it's about 170 to 175,000 people. And by 1852, it's about 215,000 people. Okay? So a ton of people come flooding in, all hoping to find gold to make it rich. All right? And a lot of those people stayed. Not a lot of the people made it rich or found gold, but a lot of them stayed. So let's go ahead and read this page together. By 1850, the United States had spread across the entire continent of North America. Most people still lived east of the Mississippi, but many were already moving west. Some Americans did not agree with the way President Polk had gained these new lands for the United States. But Mexico had already signed a treaty. The war was over. Americans had to decide how they were going to use these new lands. Gold had already been found in California, and new resources would be discovered in the coming years. All right. So as you can see, this is the end of our chapter. So there's like a lot of worksheets for today. Tomorrow we're going to go into chapter 9, which is the chapter right before the Civil War. So this is where everything starts heating up. Remember, I've told you from the beginning that the issue of slavery had been an issue from long, long ago. So when the United States was a colony, the colonists tried to pass laws to free all slaves, to make slavery illegal. But the King of England kept overriding that, which was one of the reasons that America wanted its independence. So in the Constitution, it says all men are created equal. Remember, we've talked about this too. We're all the same race. We all come from Adam and Eve, right? So if you believe your Bible, we all come from Adam and Eve. So what happens is that people are concerned about taking care of the slavery problem in the beginning. So when the Constitution goes around, there's one state that says they will not sign if we outlaw slavery in 1787. Yeah. So in 1787, since one state won't go along with it, they don't outlaw slavery at that time. So again, then we have the Missouri Compromise, which is another time where people are very upset about slavery. They want slavery out of the United States. But by that point, the Southern economy and the Northern economy are very different. Remember, we talked about that. And the Missouri Compromise was supposed to fix the slavery issue. So the Missouri Compromise stated that Missouri would come in as a slave state. Maine would come in as a free state, which would keep the balance between free and slave. And that any state that came in below the southern border of Missouri would be slave. Any state that came in above would be free. And people hoped that maybe that would fix the problem. It did not. Because you'll see tomorrow, we have another compromise called the Compromise of 1850, which it's like they totally forgot that they did a Missouri Compromise because they go and they change all the rules again. All right? So slavery is a problem in our country, and a lot of people are against it, were against it at this time in history. Remember, when I say these things, I mean this time in history, right? And there was a lot of fighting about it. And people kept trying to make compromises to try to fix the issue, but none of the fixes actually ever fixes the issue. What finally fixes the issue is the United States eventually goes to war in 1861. It's called the Civil War, the war between the states, where the South seceded, which means left the Union, because they were concerned that Abraham Lincoln would not let them keep their slaves. And so Abraham Lincoln tried to keep the Union together, and it results in a 4-year war that Abraham Lincoln ends up freeing the slaves through something called an Emancipation Proclamation. After the war, slavery is outlawed throughout all the United States, and they are able to have all the rights everybody else does because they're free people like everybody else. So they have the right to vote, they have the right to hold office. A lot of slaves and former slaves and free people end up holding office, like congressmen, senators, that kind of thing, governors, things like that. So it is a problem that was not taken care of well in the beginning and keeps rearing its head. Okay, so you're going to see that tomorrow in the Compromise of 1850. So for now, please go back, read the pages that we did not read together. All right, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.